Is
Oh, okay. Actually, it just started right now. So can you start over?
yeah, sure. So tonight's discussion is going to be about the book we read, A Sacred Duty. And the first question is, having completed the book, how has your understanding and perception increased on the process of international policy and law?
I'll go first.
All right.
So I just wrote down like short little answers so I wouldn't
Oh,
forget.
that's good. That's good.
Oh,
But one thing that really stuck out to me is um, the guy after he gave his I, I don't know speech talk. I
Yeah, sure.
guess yeah.
So tonight's discussion is going to be about the book we read, A
Oh,
Sacred Duty. And the first question is, having completed the book, are you playing the
how
video? Your understanding and
do
perception
no.
of the process of international policy and law.
okay.
I just hear myself
I
speaking
paused
and I'm
it.
not talking. Sorry.
I was like, oh
Hold on. Let me. I have no clue what is going
Someone's
on.
playing our video somewhere.
yeah, and I had
I'll
my
go
plus
first.
page
All right.
open.
I just
Oh
wrote down like
no.
that's
I
good. That's good.
have no clue what
But
is happening.
I don't know what's going on. Okay, I'm just gonna close that. Hold on.
okay, sounds like a
I
plan.
don't know if I. um, Okay, hopefully that won't go off again. If it does, sorry. Anyway, um, one of the guys, he responded by, what did he say? Oh, I didn't think what we said makes a difference. Um, I was actually kind of confused about like what all the comments meant about that, but
Uh huh.
um, that seemed like I don't know if he was a part of like the UN or what they were talking about, but he's talking about how you have to like they have to read the policy and then they have to like put in implement so that like they'll actually follow through with like what something says. Um, I just thought that was really interesting that he said like I didn't think what we said makes a difference. I was like, why are you doing something if you don't think it matters? Like that's the one thing that stood out to me. I was like, why would you do something if it's for nothing? I don't know. And basically what I got from that as a personal level is like every single person can make a difference, even if it's like super small and you only affect one person. Like to me, that's worth it. I don't know. That's just what I got from it. Is like in public policy, like you have to start small and like you shouldn't think about like I have to change the entire world, but just like making like little steps and like if everybody tried to do that, how much it would change.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking. Oh, sorry.
No, you can speak. I'll be patient.
Sorry. I was kind of thinking the same way, Allison. That one person or each of us can really make a difference. Also, it's important that we do because these laws or policies that go through internationally affect the world,
Yeah,
and so it's important that we stand up and that we do what we can to advocate for families because it affects everyone.
yeah,
I agree.
totally.
This was a really cool perspective for me because I hadn't thought about things on such a wide scope, I guess. Because my goal was to be a marriage and family therapist, I guess I'm working at like the bottom up, you know? And it's interesting to look at it from the other perspective, from the top down, to see things on an international level where governments and lawyers and like legislators are all involved in working for change. And that was a cool perspective to get. It was really neat to see things on a whole different level, the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I agree.
So our next question, unless you have more to say on that,
No.
is what role did you see the Lord playing in Professor Wilkins' efforts to advocate for the families of the world? What lessons did you learn for your own efforts?
You want to
Uh,
just go in the same order? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Allison.
Okay, sorry. So the one thing that I always thought was interesting was like the Lord will like he always does, like works through revelation. And like at first how he was kind of like praying that he didn't want to go. and then like he's kept praying about different, and like eventually it turned to a maybe, and eventually it turned to a yes. Um, and that just like it struck me about like how important like revelation is to, like when we're trying to do things like that, because what we may not always do the right thing, even though it may seem like that. Um, for example, so I don't know if you guys have like a lot of Facebook friends that like talk about like, I don't know, things that are contrary to teachings, but like I have like a lot of friends from high school that post like gay marriage stuff and like right to abortion stuff on Facebook, and I feel like I'm always just quiet. Like I don't say anything bad to them, but I don't know. I'm just like, why doesn't, I don't know, just ignore me. So the other day I decided to share an article about traditional marriage and why it's beneficial, and like why like from a non-secular, or from a secular, yeah, point of view, um like why that's important for society. And I had somebody comment on it, and they were like, this article consisted of ignorance and falsehoods, and like you're spreading hate, and like Jesus loves gay people more than you because they're not hateful, and like all this stuff about how I'm terrible and judgmental and how I don't have a brain and like all this stuff. And I just found it so ironic because like when people post like gay marriage stuff on Facebook, like I don't like, not that I believe that this, but like I don't like comment being like, well, gay people are going to hell. Like I don't do that. I'm like, that's pretty much the equivalent of what like people are doing. But at that moment, I kind of prayed because I didn't know if I should not say anything and keep quiet, or if I should say something. And I did respond, and I tried to respond in um, like intellectual and scholarly manner, while also like, I don't know, because I feel like there need to be reasons, and I need to give her reasons why she's wrong in my opinion. And like, I don't know, people who believe in traditional marriage and have conservative values, the First Amendment rights of free speech also apply to them, which I don't think people realize that sometimes. But that's, sorry, I'm talking for a long time, but that's just an experience I had with that, and that came to my mind when I read that question.
I think that's cool. It definitely talks about that in the beginning of the book about how he had all of these, like in the New York Times and publications where people were, this isn't like Facebook, like
Yeah.
many, like millions of people are reading this and seeing and like vilifying him and threatening to kill him
Yeah.
and making his family feel unsafe, and how it almost kind of makes you be like, never mind, I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't think I need to say anything. Interestingly, about what you said, I was in a Q&A with President Clark last Monday for FHE, and someone asked a very similar question to the situation you just described. They said that people on Facebook were posting a lot of things that were against what she believed, and she felt like, I don't know if it's better for me to just not say anything and not start a fight, just to let them have their thoughts and their beliefs and their ideas and just let them be, or should I stand up for my beliefs? Should I stand up for the truth and advocate for what I believe? And she said, is that something that I should feel like obligated to do, or is it okay sometimes to just sit back and let people speak their mind? And he said, it was a wise response. He said, it's a case by case scenario. If you feel like you can respond and make a difference and have the spirit present and be able to teach principles and doctrine without being offensive, unkind, or uh, something about like disgracing the name of the church, if you can do that without giving the church a bad name, about the tolerance, the kindness, and the respectability of its members, then say something. And if you pray about it and you feel like there's something that you need to share, then share it. But if you feel like when you speak you're just going to um, create more hate, more ignorance, more intolerance, then maybe it's best you just let people have their opinion.
Yeah.
And I think from the book, he was really good at that. He was really good at kind of following the spirit of what was happening, what was going on, and when it was time for him to stand up, he stood up. And
Yeah.
and that opened up doors because he was so close to following the Spirit, and what the Spirit was asking him to do. That opened up doors for other little tender mercies to happen. Uh, just little things like I really like the one where the lady said 1949, and then the guy went to go look for it. Do you remember that part? And it said
Hmm.
it, it seemed like a daunting task. There were volumes of documents, but the most amazing thing happened. The first volume that Bradley picked up fell open to the page where the definition was found. And I think that's what can happen to us as we advocate for families and follow the Spirit, is that the Lord will provide little miracles and lead us to the things that He wants us to find, because the Lord cares about families. He's an advocate for families, and so if we trust in Him and follow His Spirit, then I think that we'll be successful, not in convincing everyone, but ultimately we can be successful in doing what the Lord would have us do in advocating for families.
I agree.
And Allison, that's so cool that you posted that on Facebook.
I was like
Yeah,
so
you're brave.
traumatized by it. Like after she like initially like posted something, I like wanted to cry because I don't like making. I'm like this is really a hard class for me because I don't like bringing up contention, and I usually just do what I'm told because I hate it. And so when she said that, I wanted to cry, and I'm like everybody hates me. So it was something I just had to like. I was like, you need to just get over this now, because yeah,
Well, that's awesome. That takes a lot of courage. It kind of reminded me of the talk from General Conference. I think it was Elder Anderson that talked about the girl, and she was compared to the people got in there and compared her to slavery or whatever, but she didn't
yeah,
take it. And so it takes a lot of courage, and Satan's doing all he can to fight against the right. That doesn't mean that we back down.
yeah. Thanks,
Good job.
thanks.
So our next question is, even though the book was largely about Richard Wilkins' experience, what important supporting roles did you see others playing in this account? Why is it important to recognize this?
Okay, so for this one, I thought the most important one was his wife.
Hmm.
I thought it was kind of, and then like I kind of made the connection between like, well, if he's fighting for families, he should also like stand with his family. Like sometimes people get so like into something or like into a fight that they like, or like some people like I don't know, run marathons or do stuff like that, and they get so into it that they like kind of neglect their family. And so I think it's important, like even when fighting this, to like make sure that your own family is like secured. It's kind of like the airport, like or the airplane, like secure your mask before your child thing. But
Yeah.
like besides our relationship with God, I think like our spouse always needs to be like our number one supporter, and they should be the most influential relationship that we have. So that's what I like thought was the most important.
I agree. I liked in the beginning of the book when it's like introducing the proclamation to the family. It talks about him sitting there in the meeting and the way that he was like looking around at the women in the room, and he looked at his wife and how appreciative he was of her and how much he supported her and stuff like that and how much he admired her. And then you get to see her like support him
Yeah,
through all of these difficult and like they're just they're uncomfortable situations, so uncomfortable. And you think that she would have a lot of right to be like, okay, people are threatening your life. You're the most unpopular person I know, and people are hating me because they hate you. Like, you'd think that she would have a pretty big excuse to be like, can we stop now? Can we not do this anymore? But she doesn't. So I agree with you. I think that his wife and his children too,
yeah,
definitely big supporting roles.
Yeah, I like what both of you said there about his wife, and I really like that, Allison, the idea of that first, if we're going to fight for families, then we should be fighting first for our own family and doing all we can with them. And I love the part where he's talking to her, he's done the 2 hours, and he's talking to her, and she tells him to pull out the proclamation. And but I also loved you. She said this: "You've always been able to do the tough things when you know that they're right." And I don't know, for some reason that just stood out to me, that she could say that to him. And I want to be more like that. That's why I guess it stood out to me. I would love my wife to be able to say that about me, and 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 so I just really thought that that was a powerful moment, probably for him too. That I can do tough things, and how does somebody like my wife or my family members or the other people that are around him backing him up, that can help a lot, and we can do a lot of good to get more good together than we can on our own.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally.
Any more thoughts on this before we move to the next one?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the next one is ponder your readings from A Sacred Duty. What are some consequences and risks of minimizing or eliminating family and religion from public policy? Ooh, that's a good one.
I kind of laughed when I read this question because I was like, this is like this major in one question. Like, I was like, this is like everything that like I've been studying for, and so um, like I could literally probably write like a 15-page like essay on this, but uh, I just wrote down a couple things. If we take family policy out, there's of course like higher rates of abortion, lower rates of marriage, and then high rates of cohabitation. Like along with that, there's like things that children don't get that they need, or more like mentally and emotionally unstable. Um, I was raised just by my mom. My dad wasn't there, and so like from personal experience, I can like tell like there's somebody that needs to be there. Like I understand like how that affects people and like all the things that stem off of that, and it's kind of just like a snowball effect. Like it seems like it's becoming that way lately, where one little policy leads to something else, which leads to something else, and then it gets like more and more accepted. And then pretty soon, like the complete like family structure is different. Anybody can call themselves a family, and anybody can do whatever they want, and it's all like selfish. It's like selfish and self-seeking, and what I just truly want is for the family to be preserved, and I think that's like the true definition of love is to like to will the good of another. And so, basically, just like that snowball effect is pretty much the short version of that answer for me.
Um, for me, I've done a lot of research. I'm kind of a geek. I tutor statistics on my free time, and like I do research with professors here. And we did an interesting research project last semester about eating disorders and collective efficacy. Do you guys know what that is?
Mm-mm.
So collective efficacy is a belief that a group of people can accomplish something. Usually they use it in terms of like neighborhoods and families. Um, but we were looking at the idea of how much you believe that your family can accomplish something together. And we also connected the prevalence of eating disorders to religiosity. So we had a couple of other variables that we dealt with, but mostly we looked at religiosity and eating disorders and this idea of collective efficacy. And the cool thing is that when we actually collected the data and talked to people, that religion was so strongly connected to whether or not someone would have an eating disorder and whether or not someone believed that internally they were somehow a mistake versus believing that we had just made mistakes. It's shame versus guilt kind of thing. And
Yeah.
people who are religious also had a like far and away higher idea about their family and the way that their family could accomplish something together. So I think that when you take religion out of the equation, you have a lot of factors that we probably wouldn't connect to religion, like eating disorders, like believing that your family can do something, or believing that your neighborhood can do something, or believe that you can do something. Um, when you take that out of the discussion, especially for families, the research overwhelmingly shows that people who don't have this belief in something else besides themselves are more prone to basically any social problem you can think of. And I think that that is profound. That Just if you looked at just the numbers, that religion makes a difference. That believing in something outside of yourself and having hope in answering to someone or having rules to keep or commandments or whatever you want to call them makes people better. And we
Yeah,
can see that in the book as well.
that's really awesome. I went to a Catholic high school because I used to be Catholic, and that's like one thing that I've always loved is like how important religion is. Like no matter what religion it is, like there's a binding like common denominator between all of them, like that enhances your level of living. Like, and so I just thought that was really cool that you brought that up.
That is really cool, Melissa. Thanks for sharing that. So my answer to the question, it was a little more broader, I think, than your answers. Mine was just that less happiness. I just think about my family and how much they've helped me and blessed me in my life, and how much happiness I felt with gaining a solid relationship, having a solid relationship with my parents and my sister has really blessed my life in so many ways, and really I'm happier for it. I think if we don't protect the family and different policies are enacted that harm the family, then eventually we'll all end up, not all, but more people will end up being lonely, uh, either now or after in the eternities. And that's exactly what the adversary wants, because that's what he's going to get. So loneliness and also the lack of happiness. I know that families are the way that the Lord has provided for us to fulfill the plan of happiness. And so I'm grateful for families.
That's
Thank
like
you
a
for sharing
perfect
that.
answer.
So our last one is, based on a sacred duty, what do you think we can do about it? Does the author implicitly or explicitly make realistic suggestions for ordinary citizens as well as those in positions of power and influence? Provide examples.
So I just gave like kind of a broad, like small answer for this, but basically, like when I start learning about like problems and like advocacy, I feel like the problem is so big that I can't do anything, and I feel like there's so much to fix. I'm like overwhelmed, and like there's people starving, and there's like genocide, and there's like rape, and like all this stuff. Where I'm like, how there's so much going on. It's like complete chaos, and so this kind of goes with like number the second question that we talked about of like revelation. But I think that like while we're learning about things, we'll find something that we're passionate about and that we're kind of like really fired up about. And I think that those feelings are just from God. If we feel passion towards something, and we should put our time and our energy into something like that, because if we're not like truly passionate about something, like it's gonna be like hard like to actually make a difference. So basically my answer is for like making a difference is to like go what you're passionate with. You don't have to fix everything, but just like go where you feel like you should and like do something there, even though it's small. It's better than nothing.
I agree. I think for mine, let's think. I think just by writing this book, he's explicitly suggesting that people advocate. And throughout giving us a view of his experience in such detail, um, we can implicitly say that that would be good. But he's outwardly telling us, this is important and this is something that needs to be protected and something that needs to be um, not just protected but advocated for, spoken for. Um, cool. I took a Latin class my freshman year here, and it's kind of cool because there's a lot of Latin in just English that we say every day. And they're not even like Latin roots, but like straight up Latin words. And the word advocate is Latin. And vocat, or vocat, is to speak. And ad means to. So advocate literally means to speak to. And I think that he's telling us in this book, and that's the take-home message, that the family needs to be spoken for, that someone needs to speak to the world for the family, that there are important issues that need to be addressed and need to be spoken for in a passionate manner, like you said, and in a way that is full of the spirit and full of truth. And I don't think that's hard in this case, because if you look at research, if you look at anyone's experiences, you're going to come to the same conclusion. The Lord knows what's going on, and He knows the best way. He knows the best way for the family.
That's really cool. I didn't know that that's what advocate meant, and so thank you for that definition. That's really awesome. And I think you're both right on, exactly right. That it's just to share, to look for opportunities, like Allison, like you did on Facebook, and to share what you believe. And we don't have to be in front of the UN, or we don't have to be in front of a large group of people to change lives and to bless families. And so I think it's just looking for those opportunities, and maybe even praying for those opportunities, because the Lord wants us to protect families. And all of us have something we could do, but we also have to be searching and seeking and praying for, and then we'll be given those opportunities and be able to bless people's lives. And I really like what he said, his kind of analogy and with the tree of life, and seeing that on the rugs, and just that idea of that we're all making our way to the tree of life, and on that route to the tree of life, we can help each other, we can lift each other, and it doesn't have to be a large group at a time. It can just be one person at a time that we're helping climb their way to the tree of life, and to taste of that wonderful fruit. And so I think it's just seeking the Spirit, like we talked about, and searching and praying for opportunities. And if we're doing that, then we'll see the opportunities to share our message.
Awesome. I could totally tell that you're a seminary teacher.
Thank you.
No, it's a good thing. I kind of want to come to your class now.
Anytime, you're invited.
So that was our last question. Does anyone have any last thoughts they wanted to share before we close up about the book, about your experience with it?
Let's see.
I don't know if Melissa got some quotes.
No, I think that was pretty good. Thank you guys for your thoughts. Do we need to do a 2-minute wrap up?
It doesn't say so here.
Do that this time. Okay.
Yeah, it just ends it this time. So.
Right.
Thanks for coming. I'm glad we could meet.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you guys.
Let's do it again next week.
Yes, we will. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.